Good morning. On Friday, the latest job numbers came out. It was a sobering statistic for Canadians. It revealed in real terms the immensity of the impact COVID-19 is having on our economy. Each one of those jobs represents a family facing uncertainty, a business that's down another teammate, or a Canadian whose plans for the future are now on hold. Many things have changed in my job as Minister of Finance over the last 2 months, but one thing remains consistent, my commitment to protect Canadian jobs. Since the beginning of March, Canada's COVID-19 Economic Response Plan has been taking action to support Canadian workers and Canadian businesses in the face of this unprecedented challenge. The plan is a broad, economy-wide strategy that's keeping our economy stable and protecting jobs. The COVID-19 crisis has impacted workers in every sector, at businesses of every size. Vendredi, les derniers chiffres concernant l'emploi ont été publiés. Ils nous confirment ce que l'on savait déjà. La pandémie a des réels impacts sur les Canadiens à travers le pays. Depuis le début de mars, le plan d'intervention économique du Canada pour répondre à la COVID-19 prend des mesures pour soutenir les travailleurs et les entreprises canadiennes qui font face à cette crise sans précédent. Ce plan est une stratégie globale qui maintient notre économie stable et protège les emplois. Recently, we've announced measures for small business, but we know that the historic scope of this crisis has meant that mid-sized and large businesses are facing significant challenges as well. These companies employ millions of Canadians and provide for families across our country. So today we're announcing new liquidity support measures. For mid-sized companies, we're expanding the Business Credit Availability Program to provide guarantees, lending, and matching investment for transactions of up to $60 million, or $80 million in the case of guarantees. You can contact EDC or BDC for more information. The new large employer emergency financing facility will provide liquidity that will help large companies and the Canadians who work there bridge across to better days. What we're calling LEAF will be available to employers with around $300 million or more in annual revenues that are seeking financing of around $60 million or more and have a significant footprint in Canada. The money's intended for firms that need it. It's not low-cost lending for those who don't need it, nor is it to rescue companies that were already facing insolvency before this crisis. It's there to make sure that companies that came into this crisis on strong footing get to the other side and can rebound quickly. These companies provide jobs for millions of Canadians. Canada needs them to stay strong through this crisis. We'll protect workers by ensuring that companies that receive support through LEAF respect any and all collective bargaining agreements, including pensions. We'll protect taxpayers by putting in place strict limits on executive pay, on share buybacks, and on dividends. We want to make sure that this support goes to the companies that are contributing to the economic well-being of Canada, that it goes to the companies that make meaningful investments in Canada and provide jobs to Canadians. So when looking at a company's eligibility, we'll evaluate its international organizational structure and financing arrangements and its employment, tax, and economic activity in Canada. Companies that receive this funding will be required to commit to future climate disclosures and environmental sustainability goals. Companies will not be able to get this financing if they've been convicted of tax evasion. To ensure fairness, LEAF will be available to all sectors, with the exception of the financial sector, and will be applied in a consistent manner, ensuring support is available in a fair manner across the economy. Standardized delivery will also mean that we can get the money to companies that need it faster. Les moyennes et grandes entreprises qui emploient des millions de Canadiens sont confrontées à des défis importants face à la crise du COVID-19, Nous annonçons donc de nouvelles mesures de liquidité. Pour les moyennes entreprises, nous élargissons le programme de crédit aux entreprises pour leur fournir des garanties, des prêts et des investissements de montant équivalent pour des transactions allant jusqu'à 60 millions de dollars, 80 millions de dollars dans le cas des garanties. Vous pouvez contacter EDC ou BDC pour plus d'informations. Le nouveau crédit d'urgence pour les grands employeurs fournira des liquidités qui aideront les grandes entreprises et les Canadiens qui travaillent à passer à des jours meilleurs. Nous protégerons les travailleurs en veillant à ce que les entreprises qui reçoivent un soutien par le biais du gouvernement respectent toutes les conventions collectives, y compris les engagements envers les pensions, les régimes de retraite. Nous protégerons les contribuables en mettant en place des limites strictes sur la rémunération des dirigeants, les rachats d'actions et les dividendes. Les entreprises qui reçoivent un financement devront s'engager à respecter les futures divulgations climatiques et les objectifs en matière environnementale. Finalement, les entreprises ne pourront pas obtenir ce financement si elles ont été reconnues coupables d'évasion fiscale. Ces entreprises fournissent des emplois à des millions de Canadiens. Le Canada a besoin d'eux pour rester fort pendant cette crise. Peu importe le secteur dans lequel travaille un Canadien, peu importe la taille de l'entreprise pour laquelle il travaille, il mérite de savoir que son gouvernement le soutient en cette période de crise. No matter what sector a Canadian works in, or the size of the company that they work for, they deserve to know that their government is supporting them in this time of crisis. Our message to Canadian workers remains the same. We have your back. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Bill. And from the beginning, our government has been focused on how we can support businesses through this unprecedented time. As Bill outlined, we will continue to leave no stone unturned if it means helping Canadian workers. As Minister of Industry, I've heard directly from some of Canada's largest employers that more may be needed to get through this crisis. And I'm pleased to be working with the Minister of Finance and his team to deliver the large Employer Emergency Financing Facility, or LEAF. And along with CDEV, we at Industry Canada will be evaluating the applications that come forward seeking support. One of the most important activities my department has undertaken, or is undertaking, is a thorough analysis of the specific pain points COVID-19 is putting on all our industrial sectors. Working closely with my colleagues, we will be taking a very detailed look at our various sectors. And this analysis will be extremely beneficial as we look towards the gradual restart of the economy. Je suis heureux de travailler avec le ministre des Finances et son équipe à présenter du crédit d'urgence pour les grands employeurs. De concert avec la CDEV, nous allons évaluer les demandes de soutien qui seront présentées. L'une des plus importantes activités menées par mon ministère est une analyse complète des facteurs liés à la COVID-19 qui mettent de la pression sur les secteurs industriels du pays. Et nous allons examiner de près les différents secteurs en étroite collaboration avec nos collègues. Cette analyse sera extrêmement avantageuse pendant que nous allons étudier le redémarrage graduel de l'activité économique. And the measures we are announcing today will aid and support provide currently available support to large employers in Canada to help them weather the storm during this difficult time. Bottom line, we have your back and we'll get through this together. Thank you very much. Merci beaucoup.
Operator, we're going to go ahead and take some questions now on the phone.
Thank you. Merci. Please press star 1 at this time if you have a question. S'il vous plaît, appuyez sur étoile 1 maintenant pour poser une question. The first question, la première question, is from Bruce Campion-Smith from Toronto Star. Please go ahead. Your line is open. À vous la parole.
Let's keep it to a question and one follow-up, please.
Hi, good morning, ministers. Not sure who best able to handle this, but just wondering, is this the sectoral aid that the government has been talking about, when asked about aid for airlines, aid for the energy sector, the oil and gas sector, or is that still to come?
Well, I think, Bruce, thanks for the question. We are trying to make sure that we help all sectors across the economy that are facing a challenge because of the COVID-19 crisis. What we're doing here is providing financing that will be available to any sector that's finding themselves in a challenge. So yes, it will include airlines as a good example, where they might need credit to get themselves through this time where they're experiencing such a huge change in terms of their revenues. So absolutely, it's meant to help Canadians that are employed across all sectors of the economy.
And if I can add on to what Bill said, this is, again, going to impact all sectors. This is a bridge financing, and this complements the work that we're already doing. Government, as I said in my remarks, and my department in particular, along with my colleagues, are doing a fair amount of analysis and understanding the different pressures and pain points that sectors are undergoing. And so this bridge financing is part of that analysis.
Do you have a follow-up?
And then, Preston, yeah, just a follow-up. Is there a concern then that companies of all sizes are going to emerge from this, badly compromised, because they're so in debt, and does that not kind of constrain future operations? And then just a quick follow-up to Mr. Morneau. Can you just sketch out, how you see now the coming months? You're in the stage of providing aid. When does that turn into stimulus?
So very quickly on the sectoral part, and Bill can speak to the second half of your question. The analysis that we're doing, when we're examining different sectors, when we're looking at their challenges that they're going through, is designed to understand where we can provide the assistance and what measures we need to take to create conditions for them to succeed after this crisis. The goal is we want to make sure that companies are competitive, but bottom line is we want to also make sure that these companies are running and operating and employing millions of Canadians. Today is about Canadian workers. It's about making sure that as we navigate through this crisis, they're able to have an opportunity to be employed. And so that's what the objective of today's announcement is focusing on the bridge financing, but doing the sectoral analysis as well in order to make sure that Canadian workers come out of this stronger and better.
So with respect to what we're trying to do right now, what we're trying to achieve is to make sure that when we come out of this challenge that we do have an economy that's strong, that employs Canadians in good, well-paying jobs. It's very much about thinking a bridging facility. So it's bridging, whether we think of it for people through the Canada Emergency Response Benefit, or the wage subsidies that are going to people through businesses, or in this case, credit for businesses to get through this time period. I think in answer to the question about longer term, our main focus is having the opportunity for that long term by preserving and protecting employees and employers through this time.
Operator, next question, please.
Thank you, merci. The next question, la prochaine question de Navdeep de la presse canadienne. Please go ahead, your line is open. À vous la parole.
Oui, bonjour, Monsieur Morneau. I don't think I understood your answer to Bruce's first question, so I'll ask it again. Is this what we're expecting for all sectorial help, or will be other sectorial help coming? If you can be precise en français, ce serait super. If not, English will be okay.
Merci. Notre approche aujourd'hui est d'avoir le crédit pour les entreprises, les grandes entreprises et les moyennes entreprises, pour avoir la possibilité de continuer leur affaires après la crise. Donc, c'est pour chaque secteur à travers l'économie qui a un problème, et pour chaque compagnie qui a un problème pour avoir assez de crédit. Donc, la réponse est oui, c'est pour toute l'économie, toutes les compagnies dans l'économie, pour protéger leurs employés, pour protéger les compagnies, les entreprises, pour avoir un avenir après la crise.
D'accord, donc je comprends qu'il ne viendra pas une autre aide pour le secteur de l'énergie, par exemple. Et est-ce que vous avez une somme d'argent, un budget pour tout ce crédit?
Ce que nous pouvons dire, c'est pour tous les secteurs. Ça veut dire pour les compagnies comme Air Canada ou WestJet, ça va être très important. Pour les compagnies dans le secteur d'énergie, ça va être important. Et c'est vraiment les prêts. Donc, nous voulons avoir une situation où nous protégeons les compagnies avec les prêts. Et de cette façon, les coûts sont administratifs et les coûts des risques et on ne peut pas savoir exactement maintenant, mais c'est vraiment une situation où les risques de l'économie sont beaucoup moins si on a assez de crédit pour les grandes entreprises.
Operator, next question, please.
Thank you. Merci. The next question is from Kelsey Johnson. Prochaine question. Please go ahead. Your line is open. La parole.
Hi, Minister. Just wanted to follow up on Lena's question there. So it's my understanding that oil and gas would qualify for this, even though there's a climate change requirement?
Yes, what we're saying is that all sectors across the economy that are finding themselves stretched as a result of this crisis are going to be eligible for credit. We are making sure that there are appropriate conditions attached to that credit. Among the conditions are making sure that there's no share buybacks or dividends or excessive executive pay, but also that companies have financial disclosures on their climate situation and that they're part of our long-term sustainability goals. That's something we see across sectors. Certainly, we see companies in the energy sector, companies like Suncor, that have moved forward with approaches that respect these engagements. And there's many other companies as well that are looking towards that. We believe that that's an important part of moving forward with this credit.
And if I can just very quickly add on to what Minister Morneau said, this, of course, is going to impact many sectors, and there's a lot of thought around the energy sector, but if you look at tourism, food and accommodation, if you look at the auto sector, aero sector, there's been no part of the economy that hasn't been impacted negatively by COVID-19. So the way this program is designed is open to all sectors, and we're doing the analysis. We are looking at the pain points and pressures that different sectors are going through. We're working very closely with finance and some of our other cabinet colleagues as well. But the objective today is to make sure that we put in measures that preserves jobs, that keeps these companies viable and operational so they can maintain investments, maintain pensions, and also commit to environmental goals as well. But the bottom line is this is about making sure that it's not about one sector. It's about all the sectors having the opportunity to navigate through this crisis.
Thank you. Operator, next question.
I don't get.
Thank you. Merci. The next question, la prochaine question, from Louis Blouin de Radio-Canada. À vous la parole, votre ligne est ouverte. Please go ahead.
Oui, bonjour, M. Morneau. J'aimerais savoir si une entreprise qui est présente dans les paradis fiscaux ou l'une de ses filiales, et là, je ne parle pas d'une entreprise qui a été condamnée pour fraude fiscale, je parle vraiment d'une entreprise qui est présente dans les paradis fiscaux, pourra-t-elle se prévaloir de ce programme d'aide que vous annoncez ce matin?
Merci. Nous voulons assurer que les compagnies qui cherchent l'accès au crédit sont les compagnies qui n'ont pas une histoire d'évasion fiscale. Ça, c'est très important. Et bien sûr, ça doit être une compagnie qui va avoir les emplois ici au Canada et les approches qui sont importantes pour notre économie ici au Canada. Donc, c'est absolument nécessaire d'avoir une compagnie en bon état avec les aspirations d'être intégrale de notre économie canadienne.
Donc, juste pour être bien clair, si une entreprise est présente dans les paradis fiscaux, elle ne sera pas admissible. Et par ailleurs, j'aimerais savoir si vous avez une date prévue pour une mise à jour économique. Est-ce que ce serait réaliste avant l'été, par exemple?
Comme j'ai dit, on va avoir les conditions qui vont être introduites dans les prochains jours. Et une condition importante est d'assurer qu'une compagnie n'a pas une histoire d'évasion fiscale. Ça, c'est très important. Au niveau de notre approche pour une mise à jour économique, Nous sommes toujours en train de considérer comment nous pouvons être transparents avec nos mesures. Ça, c'est quelque chose qu'on fait chaque journée. Et bien sûr, on va continuer d'avoir les annonces comme aujourd'hui pour expliquer aux Canadiennes et Canadiennes notre approche. On va avoir plus à dire quand on a plus de temps après les mesures ont un impact sur l'économie.
Thank you, operator. Prochaine question.
Thank you, merci. The next question, la prochaine question, from Campbell Clark from the Globe and Mail. Please go ahead, your line is open. À vous la parole.
Mr. Morneau, you said that you want to protect Canadian taxpayers and that these loans will not be to protect companies from insolvency. So what criteria are you going to set to ensure that you are not giving what it has to be some kind of last gasp bridge financing to companies that won't be able to pay it back?
What we're looking at here, first of all, is it's companies that were not facing insolvency before the crisis. So it's companies that are experiencing this challenge as a result of the crisis. And the terms will be on the basis of, on a commercial basis. So that's the approach that we're taking. They're going to be consistent across companies. So that's in order to ensure that we have an approach that recognizes that all sectors are under challenge. And of course, the companies will be expected to pay based on those terms that we put forth. That's the approach that we think is most prudent in protecting jobs and getting us through this challenge.
Will the terms and the amounts be made public? Will there be transparency for the taxpayer in knowing what's happening with these funds?
Certainly, we will be providing more information on the terms, which will be standardized. And as this program rolls out, of course, we'll always want to be transparent with Canadians.
Thank you, operator. Next question.
Thank you, merci. The next question, la prochaine question, Émilie Bergeron de l'agence QMI. Please go ahead, your line's open. À vous la parole.
Oui, bonjour. Ma question pour M. Morneau. J'ai pas vraiment compris votre réponse à la question de mon collègue sur l'évasion fiscale. Donc, si je comprends bien, parce que vous avez dit une entreprise doit être reconnue coupable d'évasion fiscale pour qu'on l'exclue de cette aide en raison de ça. Qu'est-ce que vous voulez dire par reconnue coupable d'évasion fiscale? Donc, c'est-à-dire si une entreprise est sous enquête seulement, elle pourra quand même avoir droit à ce programme d'aide?
Donc, je voudrais être très précis. On doit avoir une compagnie qui veut avoir les investissements pour les emplois au Canada. Ça veut dire une compagnie qui est impliquée au Canada. Et bien sûr, nous voulons assurer que la compagnie n'a pas eu une histoire d'évasion fiscale. Ça, c'est très important. Donc, avec ça, on va considérer les autres conditions, comme les conditions pour la compagnie avec le paye d'exécutif, comme les conditions pour leur position environnementale. Donc, on va avoir les conditions importantes. Et de cette façon, on peut assurer que les compagnies vraiment ont besoin d'argent pour leurs affaires ici au Canada.
Votre collègue au Revenu national, Diane Leboutillier, a mentionné dernièrement qu'il y a une cinquantaine d'entreprises qui sont sous enquête criminelle pour évasion ou évitement fiscal. Est-ce que cette cinquantaine d'entreprises-là aurait droit au programme que vous annoncez aujourd'hui?
Comme j'ai dit, si une compagnie a une histoire d'évasion fiscale, la compagnie ne va pas accès au crédit. Mais bien sûr, on va avoir aussi les autres conditions importantes pour protéger le Canada et les Canadiens.
Thank you. Operator, next question.
Thank you, merci. We have a follow-up question from Kelsey Johnson from Reuters. Please go ahead. Your line is open. À vous la parole.
Thank you very much, Minister, for taking my follow-up. I'm just trying to understand, there are likely firms that were on very strong footing before COVID hit who are not on strong footing now and may need to restructure as a result. So how will you differentiate those types of restructurings under this program?
Well, the intent today is to provide financing for large enterprises that needed to get through this time period. It's going to be on the basis, it's going to be on a commensurate with commercial terms. So what we're really trying to do is to provide a way for people to bridge from here, really protecting ourselves against bankruptcies and insolvencies. That's the approach that we're trying to take here. The protections for Canada, for Canadians, will be very much about the terms. It will be consistent to all organizations applying for and receiving these loans. And in that way, we hope to preserve our economy so we can get through this crisis.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, operator. Next question.
Thank you, merci. The next question, la prochaine question, from Paul Vieira from Wall Street Journal. Please go ahead, your line is open. À vous la parole.
Good morning. I have a question in regards to the program, but I want to start with something else. Minister Morneau, your office issued a statement Friday saying that disclosure of sensitive market-moving employment data was unacceptable. Are you satisfied this disclosure did not come from the finance department in your office? And what specifically is the government contemplating to ensure such a disclosure does not unfold in the future?
Well, I want to be absolutely clear. It is absolutely unacceptable that disclosure of information like the labor force survey was released in advance of the timing that it was expected to be released. So we are looking into this. I think what you would have heard is Stats Canada is looking into this, investigating how this occurred. And we will be leaving no stone unturned. We need to make sure that information that's important like this, that can be market moving, is kept confidential right up until the time that is released publicly. So that's absolutely an ongoing investigation and concern that I have.
And if I may, just very quickly, as the minister responsible for StatsCan, I concur with my colleague Bill Morneau on this. It's completely unacceptable what happened. We are looking into the matter, and we will make sure that going forward we have the appropriate provisions in place to make sure that this does not happen again. It's completely unacceptable, and we take this breach very seriously.
I have a follow-up question. Thank you very kindly. About this large financing program, last week we heard from the CEO of RioCan, who talked about how a program was being designed to provide loans to companies like large retailers, and that some of this money would be headed toward some of this money had to be paid toward rent. Is there anything like that, rent to landlords, so the landlords are not stuck without getting their rent money? Is that some of the details that still have to be worked out? Because I don't see any mention of this in the press release outlining this program. Well, I guess my question is, will some of this money, bridge financing, have to be dedicated toward rent, commercial rent?
I think what you'll see is that there'll be companies from all different sectors that will come if they've not been able to get the kind of financing they need through their current banking arrangements, that this will be the financing that will be provided from the federal government in order to bridge them through this time. So for airlines, of course, it may well go to provide support for leases that they need to continue paying. It's in supplement, of course, to the wage subsidy, which has already been put out there. So for most of these large employers, they have significant challenges with the costs of people, and that 75% wage subsidy has been critically important. So different sectors will need the funds for different reasons. In the retail sector, clearly rent is a very significant portion of their cost of doing business, and we can expect that this will be supportive of that challenge. Whereas, as I mentioned, in the airline or hospitality sector, it might be for different key costs that they need to support to get through this crisis.
Thank you. Operator, we're going to take two more questions.
Thank you, merci. The next question, la prochaine question, from Murad Hemadi from The Logic. Please go ahead, your line is open. À vous la parole.
Hello, Minister. Thank you for taking my question. So you said off the top that you want to ensure that this money is not used to bail out firms that were already in trouble. Are you going to impose some kind of revenue reduction requirement in order for firms to access the program to prove that their financial difficulties are in fact COVID related?
The approach we're taking here is that we're making this financing available to all large enterprises across all sectors of the country. So the idea, the threshold would be roughly 300 million or so in revenues. And obviously the company would be coming to the government after they seek their current sources of funding. So after they seek their sources of funding, whether it's through markets or through their banking relationships. That's the approach we're taking. We're making it consistent across all sectors, across all companies, and really with the idea that we're trying to protect employees with their jobs and protect the employers to get through this time.
And then, as a follow-up, will you be imposing any forward-looking requirements on these companies, such as, for example, you said you want to ensure that these companies remain in operation, that they remain in Canada. Will you be imposing any requirements to not accept foreign buyouts or any kind of investment transaction requirement?
Well, the terms of the financing will be consistent, and they'll have a series of things that will be important for protecting Canadians. Obviously, we're seeking this approach in order to make sure that companies are able to continue to fund their Canadian operations, protect Canadian employment. We're seeking to make sure that they don't use this money for excessive executive pay or share buybacks or dividends, and that they meet up to other terms and conditions that we think will be quite important for Canadians and for our economy.
And from my perspective, working with Bill on this as well, as he's mentioned, this is about preserving jobs. This is about preserving investments. The bridge financing component is critical, but as I've highlighted before, we're going to be looking at how we can engage at a firm level to understand their unique challenges, the impact this would have to supply chains, and then specifically around the question you asked, we have the Investment Canada Act in place to look at the issues with regards to global investments in Canada. And we've been very clear about new policies around that, particularly in the areas of healthcare and personal protective equipment.
Thank you. Operator, we're going to go to the last question now.
Thank you, merci. The next question is from Jordan Press from the Canadian Press. Please go ahead. Your line is open. À vous la parole.
Oh, good morning, ministers. I just wanted some clarity. Can you just describe or provide some examples of some of the companies that you are worried about that would essentially wrap up operations if they were unable to get this bridge finance?
Well, thank you. I think it will be no surprise to Canadians that we see that some sectors of the economy are effectively closed down as a result of COVID-19. Clearly, the airline sector would be a good example of a sector that we're quite concerned about. We want to make sure that we have a functioning economy when we get through COVID-19, and that means we want to have a healthy airline sector. So that would be a very good example. We also see that there's many non-essential retailers that are facing extreme challenge because they're literally closed down. So they will need a bridge as well to the future to make sure they have the financing required to get out of this challenging time. So these are good examples of the kinds of businesses that we know Canadians will agree are good employers and sectors that we expect as part of our economy going forward.
Thank you for that. Just maybe as my follow-up, you talk about this trying to get through this period, bridging over this crisis. Can you just put a time frame on that so that Canadians can understand how long you expect to have to provide some of this financing to help these companies and when they may be in a position to start paying it back?
I think the best way I can answer that is by saying that we're all watching the outcomes of our social distancing and our approach to making sure that we have fewer cases coming of COVID-19 into our communities. And the business ability to move forward is very much related to our continuing discipline in that regard. What we're starting to see is provinces looking at very careful and appropriate opening. That is something that will obviously provide opportunity for businesses as we move forward. But I think it's very much about our ability to maintain that strong health posture that will allow us to get to a place where our economy can be more robust.
Thank you. That's all for today.
Thanks very much. Thank you.